Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Objective series. I'm your host, Jay, and I just want to thank you for tuning in today. I'm honored to have your time and your ear. Just for those of you who are new to the channel, you can contact me via email at theobjectivepodcast@gmail.com. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can find me on Instagram at theobjectivepodcast. And then finally, I know there's another one. Yes, depending on whether you're listening to this on SoundCloud or YouTube, I have a channel for both of those. Both of them are The Objective Podcast. Really easy to remember. And also for those of you who are new to the channel, you're listening right now to the Objective series, okay? I have another playlist. It's entitled Let's Talk Headlines, where I talk about more current events, and it's more of a political commentary. Whereas the Objective series is more of an ideological, just tossing ideas, things that come to mind, things that I find important, just so you guys can kind of get an eye into how I see the world. And I think that's important to kind of share ideas. So I have my Lipton's green tea with a bit of honey, and I'm ready to get started. So the quote of today, folks, I think it's very fitting, and it was just a coincidence that I opened the book to this one right here. It says, categorize people by their action, and you will never be fooled by their words. Very important. Let's read that one more time. Characterize people by their actions, and you will never be fooled by their words. I do not have the author of that quote. Forgive me, but I'm sure Google knows the answer. Earlier this week, which is true, but it was actually yesterday, which is even more true. Yesterday, I was having a debate with one of my sisters, one of my three sisters, and all three of them are quite liberal in political beliefs, ideology, the way that they see the world, quite liberal. Okay, so we typically butt heads. We have arguments / debates. Well, they're good spirited, right? And we are able to keep it civilized and whatnot. So the argument that we were having yesterday was based around the notorious President Donald Trump. And I'm sure that you, if you are a conservative or a supporter of the president, I'm sure that you have had a similar conversation with possibly a liberal friend, liberal colleague, and basically, or maybe even another conservative, but basically the premise of the argument was, how could you support a man so vile? How could you support a man so vile? He's a racist, a bigot, a misogynist, he's sexist. If you support a man like that, then doesn't that make you all of those things? Well, folks, unfortunately, it's a lot more complex than that. This whole issue of supporting the president, let's get to the bottom of this. The name calling, such as racist, bigot, all that stuff, all of those things are a result of political smear. This is all politically stimulated. I know this because Donald Trump has been in the public eye for a very long time. And it was only when he decided to run for the most powerful position on the planet that he began to be painted a certain way. So when I'm arguing with individuals about the president and they say, well, he's a racist, he's a bigot, you don't let that just slide. You have to call these people out on that. And you tell the onus, if they're making a claim like that, the onus is on them to explain their position, to explain their reasoning, and then you can debate those ideas. It's very easy to name call. It's very easy to characterize people as racist, bigot, sexist. Those are words that are just tossed around all day, that the true meaning of those words have literally lost meaning. It's a sad thing. But what it boils down to, the crux of this whole argument, because folks, I'll tell you right now, there are things that the president has said that have made me laugh. They have been inappropriate, but they have made me laugh. That doesn't mean that they are right or that they are presidential or that they are characteristics of a leader. And I think for an honest liberal, one of the hardest things that they have to deal with is the fact that President Donald Trump has said some very inappropriate things. And when you think of the president, you think of someone who is well-spoken, eloquent, someone who speaks with candor and cadence. You know, you just think of someone who's very professional. And when President Donald Trump ran for office, that kind of threw all those things out of the window. And his presidency is pretty much redefining in people's minds who a president is. Whether that's for the better or the worse is not for me to say, to be honest with you. And to be quite honest, I'm not even really interested in this transformation of what it is to be president. What it boils down to, folks, in a situation like this, is you have to ask yourself the question, and this is the question that I ask you right now, listening, and I want you to answer to yourself. And be very honest with yourself, regardless if you're a liberal or a Republican or a conservative, whatever you are, it doesn't matter. I want you to just listen to this question. And the first thing that comes into your mind, whatever feels right to you when I ask you this question, I want you to commit to that answer. My question to you folks, without overthinking it, is what is more important? Word or action? I guarantee that if we're honest today, 100% of you said action. You know what? I'll even say 99% of you said action. I believe that 1% of you, not even thinking about it, but just allowing your subconscious to process that question and answer for you. Maybe 1% of you said both. But I'll clarify. When I say what is more important, I don't mean that the other thing is not important at all. I believe that both word and action are important. It's very important that you understand this. Both word and action are important. Let me just take a sip of my tea right here as that soaks in. Oh, that's good. I got fresh and raw honey from a bee farm. Delicious. But anyways, both word and action are important. Understand that. The question isn't what is important and what is not important. The question is, which is more important? And I'm suggesting to you today that action is abundantly more important than word. If a man says, and this is for my female listeners, my male listeners can flip it around, but if a man says to you, I love you, and that same man is cheating on you with another woman, does he love you? You understand what I'm saying? Words are just words. That's why we have quotes such as, actions speak louder than words. This is a general principle, a general truth. Words are important and words need to be held accountable. You need to be held accountable for what you say. Evermore, the president of the United States needs to be held accountable for what he says. And the critique and scrutiny that is afforded the president is warranted because he is the president and he needs to be given a hard time for the things that he says. There's no doubt about that. Please don't misunderstand me. But I'm saying, and I'm suggesting to you, that it is the action that validates the word or makes the word invalid. let me put it this way. If I said to an enemy of mine, I will kill you, I'm going to kill you. Depending on the circumstances, whether I have the means to do so, whether I have a plan, but depending on the circumstances, I can be charged criminally for uttering threats. On the flip side now, say I go to my enemy and I kill them. That should have painted a picture for you of the difference between word and action. Words are important, and they're important in such that there is a criminal consequence for saying certain words. But action, the following through, is abundantly more potent and more important. I say that to say this. There's no doubt that the president has said questionable things. Are those things racist? I don't believe so. And I can go toe to toe with anyone who accuses the president of racism, of misogyny, of many things. All of those words that are so easily tossed around, I will go toe to toe and I will show you. Because if you're going to take the president's words to prove that he is X, Y, and Z, then I should be able to take the president's words and tell you why he isn't X, Y, and Z. And that's why action is so important. Because words can tell a story for and against. And that's why you have division. It is imperative in the spirit of objectivity to consider the actions of the president. And I pay very close attention to the 32 bills that the president has signed in his first 100 days and continues to sign throughout his presidency. And what I see is a man that is following through with his promises to his voters, that he will put America first. I cannot see anything in what he has done that constitutes him being called a racist, bigot, or misogynist. I just don't see it, folks. And I hope that if you do, you can email me and we can go toe to toe. And now to wrap it all up, folks. I have alluded to this parable in, I believe, 2 previous podcasts, but now that there's some context and now that we've talked about word and action, I want to tell it to you again. And I won't read it, but I'll use my own words here. Okay. So there's a story of a man and he has 2 sons. And he came to the first son and he said, "Son, go out and work in my vineyard." And then the son looked at his father and he said, "I will not." But then afterwards he regretted it and he went. Okay, that's the first son. He said, "I will not go." But then after a while he regretted it and he went. So then the father, he came to the second son and said, likewise, he said, "Go to my vineyard and work." And the second son said, "I will go, sir." But he did not. Which of the 2 did the will of his father? Folks, history is replete with examples of politicians who say one thing and don't do it. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of Canada would be the son who says, "I will go, I will do, I will fulfill these promises that I have given the Canadian people." He's saying that, but through his action, he's neglected Canadians. President Donald Trump is a man who has said much, and he is following through. What's more important? Word or action? All I ask is that you pay very close attention to what he has done for the country thus far. And then ask yourself the question, are we better off or are we worse? Thanks so much for listening, folks. Until the next time we meet again, make it your objective to be objective. Have a good night.